it's me, Vicki Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. First thing I want to say is Happy Easter. Happy Easter Friday. I mean, I did wish you all a happy Palm Sunday. Of course, this is, it's Friday. This is Semana Santa in Spain. For those of you who don't know, my name's Vicki Marie. I'm based in Spain, in Europe. I talk about true crime. If you like to hear sort of cases of true crime, follow cases, follow court cases, etc., from any English speaking case, really, and even some cases from Spain that I cover. And if you like your true crime without AI, with a real person talking, with all the good things and bad things that come with that. If you like lives with total chaos that normally happens on my lives. Anyway, this is the channel for you. I do live streams. I then condense those down to shorter videos. So, for example, today I'm going to talk about quite a few cases. And then I will split this video into smaller videos. So for those of you who don't like long videos and you don't like all the waffle, because I'm going to do a lot of waffling today as well. You can wait for the shorter videos to come out, or just listen to it in the background, or however you like to listen to your podcast. But anyway, please like and subscribe. That's free ways that you can help my channel. And also, while I'm on it, then I might as well say my thank yous. Thank you to those of you who go that little bit further. Those of you who join, who become members, or send Ko-fis, or send super stickers, etc. Thank you so much. So, as I say, we're going to talk about quite a few cases today, but also I've got quite a bit of waffle to start off with on this Easter Friday. Very important week this here in Spain. Spanish traditions as far as Easter is concerned are very important still. Spain is predominantly a Catholic country, and it takes its traditions seriously, even if people maybe don't go to church so much now. But I think you'll find that most Spanish people, enjoy the traditions, go and watch the processions, even if they're not maybe in their heart believers in everything. So it's quite beautiful to watch, quite impressive, quite emotional. So, of course, last night it was Thursday night, and that was the very solemn procession of Christ going to going to his death, going to be crucified. And, of course, Sunday is the resurrection, I think, isn't it? I'm not sure what Friday is. Is it today, the day he was actually crucified? Anyway, I don't know the ins and outs of the religious traditions. All I know is all this weekend there will be festivities in Spain anyway. So what am I going to talk about today? So, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk briefly about a new victim that's been identified in the Ted Bundy saga. Ted Bundy was a serial killer from the 70s, really. He was sent to the electric chair a long time ago, but now has been identified. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this awful case of Gannon Stouch, who was murdered by his evil stepmother, Letitia. And she was found guilty, and you thought, oh, that's it, another twonk, just at least justice was found for Gannon. And now that case has been thrown out. The conviction has been thrown out, and the family have got to go through it all again. So we're going to talk briefly about that. We are going to talk about any updates in the Nancy Guthrie case, which, of course, is a case that we're covering. And we're going to talk then finally about a terrible case in the UK of a funeral director who has just been found guilty of basically not burying the bodies that he was entrusted to by families who had been bereaved and lost their loved ones in Hull, in the UK, in the north of England. He just didn't do it. He just piled all the bodies up. And it's a disgusting case. And you know what? He's not the only one. This is a UK case. But I'm going to, it's relevant. Funeral directors, really, they're a bit like doctors, aren't they? We trust them. We trust them with the most important things, our loved ones' bodies. After our loved ones have passed away, it's bad enough what you're going through, losing your loved one. But to then think that they are treated with contempt by the people we trust and pay a lot of money, because funerals are expensive, aren't they? The people we trust and pay for, and trust with our loved ones. So, it's almost like you should get a triple sentence just because of the trust. When we put trust in people, that's worse, isn't it? If you get scammed or you get hurt or by people that you don't expect any better of, it's bad enough. But when that happens with people that you entrust yourself to, like doctors or I don't know, people you leave your children with at the nurseries and things like that. And funeral directors, we trust them, and we don't expect them. And with funeral directors, you pay them as well. Trust them, pay them. When they give ashes back and they say that's your there, you put it on your mantelpiece or do whatever you do with your, some people like to have the ashes, they have them made into jewelry or, give a little bit to everybody in the family. And then to find out that it wasn't even them. You don't even know what was in the ashes he was giving back because the bodies were all piled up in the funeral parlour. So we're going to talk about that as well. So anyway, first of all, lots and lots of waffle to tell you. That's the dog going upstairs, I hope. You're just waiting for the next calamity. Lots of waffle to tell you about. I've had a sort of quiet week this week as far as doing lives is concerned. I've tried to relax a bit because sometimes reporting on true crime, it does get on top of you a little bit. It's not a cheerful subject, is it, at the end of the day, but it's important. These cases are important to talk about, but sometimes it can be quite overwhelming, and especially this case of Nancy Guthrie that we're following, because it's not getting anywhere, it feels like. And anyway, we're going to talk about that shortly. But first, we're going to talk about this victim of Ted Bundy's. But anyway, that's after the waffle. So hi, my lovely lurkers. Good to see you. Not seen you for a little while. Thank you for watching. So my lovely lurkers are the people that like to watch the lives but don't necessarily want to join in the chat. Hello to replay crew. That's evident, people who don't get a chance to watch the lives but catch up later on. Thank you for watching. Let me take this banner off now. And then, of course, a special thank you to those of you who send super stickers, buy Ko-fis, pal me, send me emails, etc. Thank you so much. Now, an important thing that I want to say is thank you to those of you. I'm currently still trying to get together the money for a new computer, because this one, my computer blew up in the new year, and I'm on this laptop, which is not ideal. It's all right. I bought I invested in some stuff to try and make the internet faster on it. It's all right. It does a job, but it's very slow. It freezes. It's glitchy. And I'm getting there with the computer thing. Thank you to everyone who's contributed. Of course, as soon as I feel like I'm getting somewhere, something happens, like what happened this morning. So you think you're sort of getting there, don't you, in life? Like, oh, this is good. I haven't had a catastrophe for 3 days. And then suddenly another catastrophe. So that's part of the waffle. So let's get going with the waffle. For those of you who don't like the waffle, you need to go make a cup of tea or fact, you could probably go down the shops or something because there's so much waffle this morning. Just check my phone. I almost dread looking at the phone. Oh, that's just a notification for this, I think. So, first thing I want to tell you about this morning, those of you who know me, you know number one son, I have to take him to work. And he was started early this morning, so I was thinking, oh, that's great. It means I can get a live sort of done around about 11ish. So I planned the live. We're all ready. Off we go. We get in the car. Flat tire. So you know, as soon as you drive off, and it's like, and you think, oh my god, tire right front tire, right hand side, completely kaput, flat. You know, you couldn't even get it to the petrol station, like to put in some air or whatever, you know, if it was, no, completely flat, flop, flop, flop. So, yeah, panic then. So, number one son's going into a panic. You know, not the most patient person, as young people are not, are they? And, oh my God. So it's like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Anyway. So there was a few sort of frantic messages sent out trying to get a mechanic to come and fix it, because I know a couple of people actually in my little village, but it's, you know, guess what, it's Easter Friday. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. And anyway, I do, and then I remembered, you know, on your insurance in Spain, when you take out your car insurance, it includes recovery. So you have to have insurance, obviously, but you have to have recovery. You call it the grower. So if you break down wherever you break down, the grower can come and get you and bring you home. Well, this was right outside the house. So I rang them, and they said they would be here in 45 minutes. Like, I've got a spare tyre. I had a spare tyre. It's just a question of changing it. So number one son decides he's going to change it. No, he doesn't even know how to change a tyre. He's never changed a tyre. As you probably know, it's not easy. It looks easy when the garage come and do it. When a mechanic does it and he's got all the right tools. So he's starting off, you know, like putting the jack on it and stuff. Anyway. Got a very long story short, the insurer said to me, is 45 minutes too long for number one son. But anyway, again, to cut a long story short, I did get a hold of a friend who then took my son to work, and within 45 minutes, the grower was here. The mechanic changed the tyre in 10-15 minutes it took him, and we're back operational now. That's great. But of course, I need a new tyre now. I was looking at the wheel, actually. It looks like it might have had a bang up against the pavement. There's a big problem in Spain is the pavements are really high. So as you're parking, you know, you quite often bang into the pavement, and that might be what's happened and why it's you know, why it's gone down. But, you know, I just thank God, even though it's a pain. And there you go. It's dinero again, more money. Everything's money, isn't it? At least we were not, because when I take my son to work, I go down some very, I mean, it's a beautiful drive, but some very lonely parts, very windy roads, difficult roads. Like if you broke down, there's nowhere really to park on the side. You know, so it could have been a lot worse. So you always have to count your blessings, don't you? Could have been a lot worse. We could have been in the middle of the night, but, you know, could have happened when I had to go out at night to pick up number one son or whatever. So it could have been a lot worse. It's all sorted now. He got a lift to work. The tyre's repaired. Changed. But I do need to get the spare tire, because now what was the Now, I'm really surprised about it because last year when I had the ITV, which is the equivalent of an MOT in Spain, I had to have new tyres. So it is a new tyre. So I don't know what's happened. Maybe I banged into a pavement or something. I don't know. So that was this morning. So that was how our morning started off. And it was like, I thought, oh my God, the best laid plans, because I had the whole morning planned out, just take him to work, come back, do this long live, all these things that I wanted to talk about. I'm only talking about some of them in this live. There's two other things that I want to talk about with you. I might try and do one tonight. I'm not very good at night doing lives because I'm normally quite tired, but if not tonight, in the morning. So that was the first bit of waffle that I wanted to tell you about. So no wonder, here's another piece. So I am on a vape. Can you believe it? I gave up smoking years ago. And just lately, I don't know, I've had so much anxiety. I was saying, I think it's the Nancy Guthrie case has really got to me, because I just can't believe that an old lady like that would just be taken out of her bed in the middle of the night. It's made me so sad and anxious. And then, of course, all the war and all the instability in the world, things do. I've had to really put my psychic shield around, because I'm finding it's all really affecting me. So anyway, I'm not intending to start smoking again. I did try a cigarette, but it was revolting. I mean, the thing is, once you stop smoking, and those of you who've stopped smoking, you'll know what I mean. It really is. It stinks. It's horrible taste in your mouth. Everything about it is horrible. So luckily, I didn't like that. Tried literally 2 puffs on a cigarette. Didn't like it, thankfully. But then, see, my son, he does use these vapes. So there was one line on the side. I thought, I'll try one of them. And it's quite nice. So it's just this one, actually, the tobacco. I don't know if they have tobacco in them, or nicotine. This is one that's run out. So he's finished with it. But it's still got the nice, nice fruity taste. So just feel like you're having a drag on something. And literally, I know I read all these things that vapes are, but everything's bad. Anything that makes you feel better is bad for you. Have you noticed that? Chocolate makes you feel better, it's bad for you. Alcohol makes you feel better, it's bad for you. Smoking makes you feel better, or some people, because we all have our little thing, don't we? Everything that you like or feels good is bad for you. It's like, I think God was having a laugh when he decided all that. Yes, we're going to put all these lovely things on the earth, like coffee and chocolate and, I don't know, things that, chips and stuff, crisps. We're going to put all these lovely things on the earth, but they're all going to be bad for you. It's like, are you having a laugh? He must have a sense of humor, God, because he doesn't like us to. So even when you're enjoying your alcohol or your smoke or whatever that you enjoy, you're thinking, oh, this is bad for me. You can't have this unbridled joy in just enjoying it. But anyway, so yes, so I'm on the vape, but that's another bit of waffle. What else did I want to waffle about? Oh, yeah, so some of you are watching the stream that I did where I was talking about, now this is positive, these are African daisies. And I was saying that I had a little cat, a white cat with blue eyes. And I loved that cat so much. And sadly, she died a few years ago now. She wasn't that old, but she had, I don't know what she had. Sometimes cats just get these mysterious illnesses. Anyway, she died, bless her. And she is buried in a plant pot on my patio. That's where we buried her. And I then put in this plant, because it reminded me of her. These are African daisies. And of course, they're white with the blue centre. And she was pure white with blue eyes. So I planted some of these African daisies. Anyway, this was years ago, before COVID. So it's probably 7 years ago this happened. And anyway, over the years, the daisy plant died, so it's got another plant in there. But I thought I'm going to get some more African daisies. I was talking about them. Now, there's all different colours. These are yellow ones. They're not as nice. I like the white ones best. And they love the sun. Obviously, that's they're called African daisies. They prosper in the sun. There's a lot of plants you can't have in Spain because they're difficult to grow because they can't put up with the sun through the summer. But these daisies, they love the sun. So they close when at night time or when it's not sunny, and they come out in the sun. So I've got to find a sunny spot to put them. But I just wanted to show you them because I do love flowers, and it's quite difficult to grow flowers here in Spain. And I'm not the best gardener in the world. My dad was a good gardener. He tried to teach me a lot of things. I was useless, but I'm not the most brilliant gardener. Talk about green fingers. I've got black fingers. Here in Spain, they call it the green hand. If you're good with plants, you've got a green hand. I've la mano verde. I've got the black hand. La mano negra, because whatever every plant I touch tends to die. But I do sometimes they can last quite a long time. So the African daisies I had before, they did last for quite a few years. My problem is I either underwater them or overwater them, because a lot of these plants that do well in Spain, like I've got a cactus actually that's flowering at the moment. I did take a picture of it, but I'll put it on the community post or something. They don't need a lot of water, so sometimes I do overwater. But then you've got to hit the exact right thing, because if you overwater or underwater, your plants won't last here in Spain. I've gone through so many plants over the years. I've probably spent hundreds and hundreds of euros on plants, and I've only got 3 that are still alive. But anyway, hopefully I'm going to find a sunny spot for these African daisies. I'll just show you again because, they're so beautiful. I mean, really, really are. So if I find a nice sunny spot for them on the patio, I'm hoping, that they will last. But anyway. So that was something else about, because I did mention them in another stream. Some of you will remember that and some of you won't. What else do I need to talk about? I've talked about the flowers, talked about the car, talked about Easter. Oh, right. One last thing. So on my other channel, True Crime Chats, that's the channel I can give away memberships. So I'm going to give away memberships. Oh, I didn't see that I had chat showing up on my hi chat. So yeah, I haven't said hello to the chat. Wasn't showing up on my StreamYard. Hi Mark, I'm good. I hope you are. Hi David. Hi Lily. Hi Darren. Yeah, these undertakers, David. Terrible. Should be able to trust a bloody undertaker, shouldn't you, for God's sake? Yeah, I had a spare, but still had to get the mechanic out to change it. But yeah, it's sorted now. But I've got to get a new. Oh, I see where my comment. Look at that! I missed all those comments. Only just seen them now. Yeah, sorry about that. I wasn't ignoring you all. I was thinking, oh, nobody's here commenting. I've only just seen them. Right. Last bit of waffle then. I want to give away the membership. Oh gosh, there's I know what that message is. So somebody's coming round to buy some just some plant pots that I put on marketplace. I bet they're on the way now. Right, sorry. I knew that was going to happen. I've been waiting for this lady to come for a couple of days to what's going on here? I've been waiting for this lady to come for a couple of days to pick up these plant pots. I knew she would come while I was on the live. Sorry, you know what? I could have put money on that. So she'll message me when she gets here, and then I'll just have to pop out. I just have to pop out, take her these plant pots. Okay, where am I? Where am I? Okay. Okay. I'm here. So I will get around to doing these. So I want to give away these memberships. Okay. So I've got 10 memberships to give away. I've sent 5 now, and I'll probably maybe, and I'll do them all now because I'll forget if I wait. Okay, so that is Tia, Tenacious She Wants, Oreo Shichi, Lisa J78, and Linda Kibe. They've all got free memberships. And send the next lot. Oh, come on. Can't do it. Why can't I do it? Yes, just send them. Won't send. The next lot won't send. Why won't it send? Let's try this. So the first lot sent fine, and then of course the second lot won't for some unknown reason. There you go, that should go now. Hang on. Bloody hell. Right, it's gone, but I can't see. I can't see the names. Hang on. So, Andrasta Wolf, Moonbeam, Real Shadow Fiend. What's happened there? Just went onto a different page. Dude, I swear I've definitely got I can't see them anyway, so where's it gone? That just disappeared. Honestly. You could not make it up. There's gremlins in the machine, always. Oh, hang on. Have it come back? Oh. Come on. Oh, I hate this computer. I'll tell you what, as soon as I get a new laptop or computer or whatever I end up getting, this one's going out the window. Real Shadow Fiend, Deblina, and Pink Fan. Okay, I'm going to put that window down now because I don't need that one. Ted Bundy. Do you know it's true? Do you know I always think I'm being haunted, Marg, by Ted Bundy, and it sounds ridiculous, but why not? I mean, there's more ridiculous things happened in the world because I have got a bit of a fascination with him. I'm not the only one. There's something about Ted Bundy. Let's start off talking about him actually. As we start off, yeah, shush, the dog's making a racket now. Sure. Yeah, there's something about Ted Bundy. I think part of the reason why I started getting, when I first started getting interested in true crime, and I saw about Ted Bundy. There's something about him. He's the charming killer, isn't he? I think what fascinates everybody about Ted Bundy is he really did walk amongst us. People thought he was great. His mum said he was the best son in the world. He had girlfriends who thought he was brilliant. He worked on a rape crisis line, of all things. And he worked alongside Anne Rule, who is a novelist who wrote a book about it. I think it was The Stranger Beside Me or something. And he was in politics. He fitted in everywhere. Everyone thought he was a lovely guy. Women adored him. He had those lovely eyes, nice smile, charismatic, intelligent. And inside he was a total monster. He is a prime example of monsters do not, even he said it, monsters don't walk around sort of drooling from the mouth and looking like what they are. They are people who fit in, people who, even the only way that Ted Bundy got his victims into his car was because he was a handsome guy, plausible. Otherwise, they wouldn't have got in his car. Or he would tell them he was a police officer, or he would pretend he was having problems lifting something. Parts of Silence of the Lambs, the film, where the guy, is it Jamie, his call, was pretending to try and get something in the van. And that's how he got the senator's daughter to get in the van to help him. And that's how he abducted her. That was based on Ted Bundy. That's what he would do. He would plaster up his arm or, put a bandage around his arm and pretend he had something wrong with his arm and ask someone to help him, ask a girl to help him. And the other fascinating thing I think about Ted Bundy, that there was one day where he was at like a local beauty spot and he kidnapped two women from there in full view of everyone. And he was overheard telling them that his name was Ted. He was using his real name. Well, he's presuming those girls would never be able to talk about it, but he didn't realise people were listening to him, overhearing him. But he is a fascinating character, and if you've not seen the Netflix documentary with Zac Efron is brilliant in this documentary. What's it called? Extremely Wicked something, because even the judge, when he was finally found guilty and given the death sentence, even the judge said, you chose the wrong way in life, young man. You could have done really well in life. Even the judge liked him, even after hearing all the terrible things that he'd done. He was, and he was wily, he was clever. I mean, it was in the golden times of serial killers, if you like, because it was before DNA, so he got away. Nobody knows exactly how many women he killed, but nearly 100 at least, if not, we don't know all of them. He was doing it for a long time before he got caught. He escaped from prison twice to go and do it again. Once he jumped out of a window at a court near the Mountains, Cascade Mountains. Then what? How did he escape the other time? It was he got through an air vent. He lost weight deliberately. so that he could escape, and he escaped and then went and murdered some more girls at a fraternity house. And when he jumped out of the courtroom window, for ages before that, he'd been practicing jumping off his bunk to strengthen his knees because he knew he was going to try and jump out this courtroom window. He'd sussed out a way he could possibly escape. So he spent quite a long time beforehand practicing jumping off his top bunk in his cell so to strengthen his knees. I mean, this guy is, I think this is why he fascinates us all, because, well, he fascinates me. I'm not ashamed to say it, it just does, but I'm not the only one. It just incredible how somebody so, he could have gone a better way in life, like the judge said. He was clever. He could have done really well in life, but he chose the wrong way. Or did he even choose it? He blamed it on violent pornography. That's why he said he became the way he was. But that's bollocks, I think, because at the end of the day, lots of people probably watch violent pornography, or in those days it was not like now where you just go on the internet and you can virtually anything you want to find. Then it was like these like shocker magazines. They were like uh how would you call them? Not like little sort of magazines, and they'd have very graphic photos on the front. Cartoon, not photos, like cartoons, if you like, or drawings of women, with their eyes wide open, scared, or, being attacked. But they were soft, really, compared to what you get these days. Um, he blamed it on that. He said he found a stack of those magazines, and that's what started him off being interested. But I just don't believe that, because a lot of people might have found those sort of magazines, looked at them. They may have even been a little bit sort of excited by them, but they wouldn't have gone out and killed nearly 100 women or whatever, would they? So, I think that's just not true. I think Ted Bundy is an example of evil living in amongst us. As I say, he had a girlfriend who still, I think she's still in love with him. The last time I've seen her being interviewed, she adored him. You could see. And then, of course, he had his wife, Carol, who he proposed to on the stand as she was giving evidence, because he chose to represent himself in court. If you've not seen that, I mean, it's just fascinating. But they shouldn't be allowed to do that, I don't think. Sorry, I could sneeze. I got the allergies now. So yeah, I think everything about him is interesting. Also, he has helped. He helped to catch the Green River killer. There is something to keeping these twonks alive if they will cooperate, because only a serial killer like Ted knows what goes through the minds of similar people to him. We can't get, I know the FBI now, they profile these killers, and we know a lot more than we used to, don't we? Uh, because of profiling and things. But it's hard to get your head inside the head of Ted Bundy. But someone like Ted, or could get their head, could understand the way he thought. And he helped catch the Green River killer, who was another prolific murderer, serial killer from the golden age of serial killers, which was like 70s, wasn't it? Late 70s, before DNA testing. I don't think we'd get that again now because of DNA and the relationship between states and areas. Now there was, it was very different then, because he told them, to go back to the deposition sites, that he would probably go back again and again, because that's what Ted used to do. He liked to, partake of sex with corpses as well. I mean, he's a revolting man, but he didn't look as if he was. And even in his court case, girls were going to sort of drool over him, even knowing what he'd done, or they didn't believe that he could possibly have done it because he was just too dreamy. One girl actually said that, oh no, he can't be guilty, he's too dreamy, he's too nice. So I think that Ted Bundy is, there's a fascination with him because he is a lesson to us that nobody is too dreamy or too nice. It could be the person living next door to you. It's not necessarily, the guy up the road with all the tattoos and the drug habit or whatever. It could be the nicest guy you ever knew that is capable of doing great evil, because the devil lived in Ted Bundy, I believe. And when you see him and you look at this sort of smile, charming face with the nice smile, and his eyes, he had these very attractive eyes, but apparently his victims, or ones that got away, there was one in particular, Carol DeRonge, when he got her in the car, she was lucky to get away with her life. She said his eyes turned black. That's really scary, isn't it? So his blue eyes, when he got her in the car, and he was obviously then thinking what he was going to do with her, and she was lucky she got away, they turned black. She said it's like a demon inside, isn't it? Anyway, that's Ted Bundy. He's not with us anymore. He was electrocuted. He tried his best to get out of it. He's like all twonks. He was a coward at the end. He had to be dragged practically to the chair. He was terrified, and hopefully now he's spinning in hell. But then, when you think, oh, that's it, now what's come out, the reason why I'm talking about Ted Bundy now is this poor girl, Laura, has just been found out definitively. He's always been suspected of killing this girl in Utah back in the day when he was prolific, but he never confessed to it properly. But now, thanks to, guess what, DNA, good old DNA, has proved definitively that he is her killer. So I'm going to just read you this article. So, officials in Utah have formally closed a 51-year-old cold case after using new DNA technology to identify a murdered teenager as a victim of serial killer Ted Bundy. Laura Ann Amy, 17 years old, disappeared after leaving a party on Halloween in 1974. 1974. I was 12. Her body was discovered about 1 month later by hikers in the American Fork Canyon, and the Utah County Sheriff's Office announced on Wednesday new testing confirmed irrefutably that DNA evidence recovered from Laura's body verified the existence of DNA belonging to Bundy. And between February 1974 and February 1978, Ted Bundy murdered at least 30 women. Is a lot more than that, I think. He has been linked to many more killings throughout the country. Before he was executed in Florida in 1989, he did confess to her killing, but he would not elaborate or give any detail to his actual involvement in her death. So the Sheriff's Department elected to keep it open until they could prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that he was her killer. But now the case is officially closed. And the sheriff added that if he was still alive, prosecutors would pursue the death penalty against him. So yeah, the only problem with the death penalty, of course, is you can only do it once. You can only give someone one death penalty sentence, and Bundy, he had that. So Bundy was killed by the state, and he's not here today to answer any charges about Laura. But it's so very sad now. Laura's look. If you know anything about Ted Bundy, this appearance of hers, like the dark hair parted in the middle there, that's a typical Bundy victim. They say, he had a grudge against an ex-girlfriend who'd finished with him, who looked a little bit like this. But nearly all of his victims had a very similar look, So maybe it's true. I don't know. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to tell you about. But it's good news for a family. I mean, it's cold comfort, but at least now it's confirmed. Yeah, doesn't bring Laura back. Laura was, deprived of her life, and Bundy is no longer with us. So he's had at least all of his victims have had justice, but it's still cold comfort, isn't it, at the end of the day? But I wanted to tell you about that first of all. Okay, right. What's the next thing I want to tell you about? Oh, so yeah, again, briefly, because I am going to go into this in. Oh my God, when we look at these horrible people that do horrible things, look at Letitia here. Look at her eyes. This is your epitome of the wicked stepmother. Letitia Stout, she murdered her stepson, Gannon, put him in a suitcase, put his body in a suitcase, hid him. Anyway, he was found, bless him, and she was, put on trial for murder, and she was found guilty. The problem is that conviction's just been overturned. So poor Gannon's family, his dad, for example, and his mum, have to go through it all again. If this woman has got any decency in her little finger, she will just plead guilty this time and not put the family through everything all over again. Just incredible, that she could do this to him. It's just like the cruelty. Again, yeah, like you say, David, the eyes say it all. The eyes are the windows to the soul, and you can tell from looking at this woman, she has got no soul. She has got no soul, because you know what? We don't know exactly what happened. Did she get angry with him? Was it an accident? I don't know. But the thing is, to me, in these horrible cases, especially against children, it's not even so much what they do, because you hope that these things are not deliberate. It's what they do afterwards, isn't it? It's like with Gus Lamont. If Gus Lamont's over there in Australia, the little boy who the grandma is suspected, isn't she, of killing him and concealing him, why doesn't she just come clean? She's 75 years old. The Tranmar, the Josie, who used to be a man and is now a woman. The least feminine woman you've ever seen in your life. I mean, how these people, where is the femininity there? If you think you want to be a woman, surely you'd have some feminine traits. Anyway, she doesn't. Just looks exactly like what she is, a man dressed up. I don't know if she's had the operation or I don't know, but certainly doesn't look in any way, shape, or form like a woman. And she's denying it all. So, the police are convinced she knows something about it. Both the GMAs know something about it because she's still with her wife. The wife has stuck by her even though she transitioned to become a man. So it's a very complex situation. So what I'm saying is, it's not, we have to hope that Gus Lamont, it wasn't a deliberate murder. Was it an accident? Anyway, so it's what they do afterwards, though. It's the concealment, isn't it? And the torture that they put the families through is almost worse than the act itself, because the least they could do if they were genuinely remorseful for their actions is come clean and say, oh yeah, I just lost it. I don't know, there was an accident or whatever had happened. But to actually torture the families even more by pretending they don't know anything about it, and there was a big search for Gannon. I will be doing, a spotlighted video on this case. I thought it was all over with, to be honest, and it probably this case was before I started doing the true crime chats, really. And but I think I'm going to have to do a video sort of highlighting it. But I just wanted to read for you. Al Stouch, who is the father of Gannon Stouch, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Is it Stouch or Stouch? Anyway, this is a statement he's released. After hearing the news today about the decision by the Court of Appeals, I am truly torn by the emotions of potentially having to repeat this process. My resolve, however, has never been greater. My desire for justice has never wavered. And most importantly, my love for Gannon will never fail. I am reminded daily that Gannon is standing next to God in heaven and together looking down on all of us. As Pastor Paul and my mama recommended so many times through this process, let's go to the Psalms. I declare Psalm 23 over my family, all of the attorneys on this case, and everyone who has shown love and support for Gannon. The end result will be the same, and although we do not wish to journey this path again, we stand with those who will handle this case, and we believe wholeheartedly in their ability to finish this for once and for all. Al Stouch, Gannon's dad. Now, I just want to let you know that the reason the conviction's been found unsafe is something to do with one of the jury members. You know, this quite often, something happened. Let's have a look if I can find out what the reason was. Oh, and it's been a couple of years, so they must have just, I mean, obviously it never ends. This kind of thing never ends. They miss Gannon every day, but they probably thought it was over. Do you know what I mean? At least it was over. She was in prison. It was over in that sense. So let's have a look. What was the? I know it's to do with a jury member. Yeah, so she was found guilty in May 2023 for murdering her stepson, Gannon Stouch, in January 2020. And on Thursday, a three-judge panel handed back its opinion on her appeal. And they are in the summary, the judges reversed the conviction and remanded the case for a new trial, with two judges concurring and one judge dissenting. So that should have to be a majority, I think. So anyway, it's 2-1 of the judges deciding that she should be. So this case came into question because one of the jurors, identified as MB, had a son-in-law who worked as a deputy district attorney in the same office as District Attorney Michael Allen, who prosecuted the case. That wasn't Michael Allen, was it, that did the Karen Reid case? No. So yeah, let's just have a look at this before I finish with this case. Just terrible. Just what this family, you just think, God, they go through all that. They lost their son Gannon. They went through it all, went through the trial, all that, and they're trying to get their life back together again. And then now they have terrible. Let me just take that off. Well, she's already in jail, Mark. She's already in jail. She's serving her sentence already. She's been convicted and she's already in jail. So, but she won't be released, I don't think. I hope not, anyway. Hope she won't be released while until the new trial. I hope so, anyway. Surely they're not going to let her out. Bloody hope not. Come on. It's starting to go slow again. Surely they won't let her out, will they? You know, she'll have to stay in prison until the new trial. Gosh, it's not sharing. Come on. I think I might have to leave that because as soon as I try and put a video on it, it doesn't like it. You know where it's like this computer. It's all right as long as you're just doing basic things. As soon as you try and do anything else, so I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to put some windows down. Anyway, so I just wanted to let you know about that. I'll keep on top of it. I'll let you know. Maybe we'll follow that trial when it comes up, and I'll do another video about the ins and outs of the actual murder case itself. Okay, so what am I going to look at now? Oh, so now we're going to hear the latest about Nancy. Now, I've got to say, Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old. Oh, you're thinking about Josie in Australia. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So now we talk about Nancy Guthrie and the latest, if I can call it that. There is no latest. Do you know what? The only real information we're getting about Nancy's case at the moment is the, the war between the YouTubers. I don't know if you know about that. So you've got JLR, of course, who we've followed many times, but I just got to follow him now. I've unsubscribed from everything because it turns out he's a domestic abuser, strangled his ex-girlfriend, gave her a black eye, allegedly. I've seen the photos. I don't think there's any doubt that, JLR did all that to Magnolia. I think it's undoubted, really. Anyway, but he'll go to court. He'll have his day in court. But now there's another YouTuber who's taken up the gauntlet against him. It's like, they see, do you know what? They seem to be, instead of caring about Nancy, they seem to be in a competition about who's the biggest dick out of each, who's the biggest twonk. JLR accusing the other YouTuber of being a child abuser, and that the other YouTuber accusing JLR of being a domestic abuser. And I'm just sick of it, to be honest, because really aren't they interested in Nancy, because it's Nancy who matters, of course. What's happening? That's really the only big news that's coming out. And then, of course, this dispute or irritation towards Sheriff Nanos, good old Sheriff Nanos. I mean, he's the one gets all the bad press, isn't it? This, of course, is Nancy. This is the person who did what they did, because we still don't know exactly what's did with it. I'll tell you where I am now in Nancy's cases. I think the whole crime scene was staged. I think when we find out what happened to Nancy, it'll be a shock to a lot of people. I think whatever happened to Nancy was done by somebody who knew her well, or knew of her, or knew her house well. I'm not saying it was family. I don't know who it was, but I think whoever it was, they knew. This is Sheriff Nanos that I'm showing you now. I think whoever it was, they knew Nancy's house well, the layout of it. They've got personal grudge against Nancy, in my opinion, unless it was a ransom demand. I just don't believe it. I think it's all staged. That's where I am with this case at the moment. It could be different next week. I just think the whole thing is staged. Even this, even the CCTVs and stuff like that. I think it's to lead people off. I think when we find out who that person is, or who they've got links to. I think it would be a big shock to a lot of people. I think they're close to Nancy. That's my opinion. That's what I think anyway. So yeah, now what I'm going to do is put this video on, if it'll play, because Brian, one interesting thing that did come out, of course I can't find it now. Brian Entin, who is a podcaster who's been covering this from News Nation, he did an interview with someone close to the sheriff's department, where they hid their identity, and they've given us an insight into, what's really going on with Sheriff Nanos and what the problems were right from the beginning of the case. Because I think one thing that everybody agrees is Sheriff Nanos is pretty rubbish, isn't he? Where's that latest video? There it is. Let's see. Oh, right. Okay. Right. I'm going to have to just leave a little minute. She's outside. The lady's outside for the plant pots. I'm going to turn my mic off for a minute. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Go on. In. Sorry, I've got dogs that go mental. Vicki. Hey. Hey, Dan. Oh, sorry, that's from ages ago. What am I doing here? Hi, Moonbeam. I thought I took the sound down, but I didn't. Yeah, the free gift membership is for the other channel, my other channel. So I had to go for a bathroom break as well. I'm sure you heard it all, but thank you for watching. Thank you for being a member on this channel as well, Moonbeam. Right, okay, so plant pots delivered. Tyre fixed. We're getting there, we're getting there. The chaos maybe will die down. Oh my God, you know, this week I was doing the other day. A nice, peaceful week this week. Nothing really traumatic has happened. And then boom, the flat tyre this morning. Not that the plant pots were traumatic. That was just I knew the lady would come round when I was in the middle of a live. I've been waiting for, we've been trying to organise a day when she could come and pick up those plant pots. And not been able to do it. And then today, of course, and I haven't even really done, anyway, I'm waffling again. I'm waffling. Stop waffling. Stop waffling, Vicki. Right, oh, that's right. I'm looking for this Brian Ensign video. And then I'm going to go and get, I'm running out of pineapple juice. Still, you know what? While things are going on, at least you know you're still alive. And it's all, you know, some people didn't wake up this morning. So I've got to count my blessings. Oh God, when I got that flat tire this morning, oh bloody hell. Okay. Add to stage. Now you'll have to confirm for me that you can hear this. Now, he had this FBI guy on first. He's very good. I mean, I just want to say, I've said it before, and I'm sure a lot of you know Brian's channel anyway, Brian Ensign Investigates. I would definitely recommend it. I just want to claim fair use on this. Thank you to Brian for making this video. And first of all, he had this FBI guy on. I'm not going to play that because it'll make the video too long. But then he interviewed this guy who's supposedly a source close to, where's it gone? Where is it? Oh, God. Where is it? Where's the interview with the guy? Oh, maybe it was on News Nation. Oh, come on. Let's try. It might be on News Nation. I really just want to see the interview with the guy who's a source close to the News Nation. Hi. Come on. Right. I think let's try this news net. I think it's on. Yeah, let's watch this. It's a short video actually as well. So there's a few things that came out about it. And I think the most important thing to me anyway was that the night that Nancy went missing, the team that turned up okay, it's yes, I will. Let's. Sorry, I'm. Ay, Dios mío. Right, more haste, less speed, Vicky. So trying to do things quickly is should chill, Vicky, chill. I'm going to put the link in. That, what? There it is. Yeah, if you notice, when you try and do things quickly, it all goes wrong, doesn't it? More haste, less speed. Right, this is the link to my other channel for anybody who's not subscribed over there. That's the one you've got the membership for, Moonbeam, so you must be subscribed over there or something. I don't know how it's picked up on you. It's True Crime Chats with Vicki Marie. And it was my Spanish and English channel, but I've converted it because I was doing more true crime on there, and people were watching the true crime more than my Spanish videos. So I thought, well, people are enjoying the true crime, even because I've got quite a lot of subscribers on there. Well, about 3,000 something. And people were watching the true crime more. So I thought, well, they must be enjoying the true crime. So what I've done is I've turned that to like a sister channel for this one. And then I've set up a new Spanish channel that I haven't really got around to doing any content on yet. But I'm going to, so that's where it's going to be. So this channel, the Vicki Marie Chats channel, will be mainly for lives. But I'm on the paid StreamYard at the moment. I decided to go back on the paid StreamYard, and that means I can stream live to both channels. And also it's easier to just upload photos and things like that. It's so annoying. And then you run out of time for streaming. So today, when I wanted to do this long stream, I knew it would be a long stream. But I wouldn't have been able to do it on StreamYard because I'd run out of the free whatever. The free plan, they only give you so many hours of live streaming. So that's why I started back on the paid one. So I'll do a month on the paid one, and then I might have to go back to the unpaid one again and just see how it goes, because it's quite expensive, StreamYard. It's good. I've got to say, StreamYard is easy to use, and it's a good streaming, but it's €40 a month. It's quite a lot, isn't it? When I first started streaming, it was only €10 a month, and then it just literally went up from 10 to 40. But they have improved it, and I can't say it's not a good streaming platform. It is good. I've tried using others. I don't understand them. Like there's OBS, which is free, but I haven't got a bloody clue how to use it. There's others, but again, they're not as simple. StreamYard is simple to use, but there are quite a lot of good features on it. The other one, because of course I can stream live just straight through YouTube, but I don't know how to load photos on there and things. And on the StreamYard you can do recordings, you can do everything. I mean, it's just easier. That's why it's €40 a month, I suppose. So I suppose it's worth it. But it's worth it if you've got a big channel where you're earning, you're earning a better wage on it. But it not. So one day it'll probably be worth it. I'm always weighing it up in my head, and I think, well, how are you ever going to grow to a bigger channel unless you have a good streaming platform? So you've got to look on it as an investment that way, But that's quite a lot. It's just quite a lot of money when you're not really, basically what you earn from the YouTube alone, like the views, pays basically for your streaming, for your design, for the things that you need to stream. And then of course the extras that you get, which are great, are the Ko-fis that people send, and the memberships help. But those are the things that sort of bump it up to make it more, whether I was earning any money from it or not, because I enjoy doing it. But sometimes it's a bit demoralizing when you think, God, I've got to pay €40 to StreamYard, and when you've got other things to buy, like computers and things. Anyway, life is unless you're a millionaire or something, it's constant choice, isn't it? All the things, you can't have everything you want, but at least you can have the things you need, or I can. So it feels good. I've got the things I need. That's the most important thing. I'm very easily pleased. I don't have to be a millionaire. It'd be nice to be a millionaire, but actually, probably it wouldn't, because that can get complicated in itself. You don't see that, and rich people don't seem that happy, do they? Look at Tiger Woods. Sorry, I'm waffling again now completely. But look at Tiger Woods. He's another example recently. Or look at how many rich people. You think, happiness does not, although money helps, of course it does, it helps make your life easier in every way. Like, you don't have to worry about bills, you don't have to worry about food, you don't have to worry about, I don't know, providing for your family, or putting the electricity, your electric getting cut off, or your water, or whatever. I know it helps. I know that money helps, but it doesn't make you happy, does it? It really, really doesn't. How many people you see with money and they're so miserable. And they always want more money as well, don't they? They're never happy with what they've got either. They're greedy. It's like, to speak of the devil, kind, nice people. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. I didn't see you sneak in there. Maybe you came in and said hello and I didn't. Sorry if I didn't say hello, but thank you so much for that, Kofi. Thank you. Yeah, these are the things that make the difference with YouTube. It's a funny place, YouTube, isn't it? So, sometimes when you watch people streaming, hi, Sean, you watch people streaming, and for example, JLR, I mean, his donations and things have gone down since it was found out he was a domestic abuser. But, on this Nancy Guthrie thing, but he was like, God, it must be thousands of dollars that he was sent, which is fine, because, to me, JLR was there. He was the one there streaming. I say generous with his streams. He always says, use my streams if you want to, do you know what I mean? So, but then, of course, now, but he's grown. He wasn't always a massive channel like that. He's found a niche that suits him. It's just a shame now, these domestic violence allegations makes it difficult for me to, because I've seen the photos of Magnolia with the black eye, and I've heard the 911 calls, and domestic abuse, whatever situation, there's no excuse for strangling a woman and giving her a black eye and a broken nose, is there? And stealing a phone apparently, and all those things. So we'll see. Anyway, we'll see what happens. But what I'm trying to say is, some streamers, he to me deserved it. Is they like doing 12-hour streams, and that's not easy. It's not easy to do a 3-hour stream sat here in my house on the computer. And outside, it's really what I find difficult. I want to do some streams outside, but when the sun's out, it's difficult. I got a few tips from JLR actually. I have got an umbrella in the back of my car. You need an umbrella because you've got to. Trouble is when you're trying to sort of focus your camera when you're outside and it's sunny, it's really difficult because you can't see. You can't see the chat really very well. So he gave me the idea of the umbrella, and I have an umbrella always in the back of my car. And I thought, oh yeah, I need to get an umbrella out there. But anyway, I'm waffling again. It's not like me, is it? So let's play this. Thank you again, Sean. That's very kind. Thank you. Let's hide that comment now. Thank you. Where are we? Let's play this. I'm in a real waffle mood today. You can tell I haven't waffled for a little while. So I'm trying to make up for it all in one video. Sorry to anyone who doesn't like the waffle. So that's interesting. So the first thing this source said, so don't get to confirm for me you can hear what they're saying, because sometimes it doesn't come through, but I've forgotten what I was going to say. Oh yeah, that's right. He's saying that they rushed to the judgment initially that Nancy had just wandered off. I didn't know that, because I thought that Sheriff Nanos said immediately he knew it was a crime scene, didn't he? Do you know, this is what I mean. You get so much conflicting information in this case. It's very depressing because you can't get to the bottom of how it really panned out. Anyway, so what this source is saying is that they rushed to the judgment that it was an old lady wandering off, and that's why it all went wrong from the beginning. What do you think? Oh, no, dear. Oh, sometimes I have to stop sharing and then share again. I have no idea why sometimes it doesn't work. But anyway, I can hear it okay. But let's go back on, share it again, try this time. Sometimes it doesn't work the first time. I have no idea why. Drives me mad. Let's see.
There was an immediate rush to judgment on what was happening at that scene.
From what you know,
Speaking with some people that actually know the intimate knowledge of this investigation have told me that there was an immediate rush to judgment on what was happening at that scene, and it was that Nancy had somehow wandered off. And so they rushed to that judgment, stayed with that judgment, and then ran the investigation as if this was a search and rescue issue opposed to a possible criminal issue.
From what you know, were the initial people who responded inexperienced?
From what I understand, the people that were there on the scene were not 10-year homicide detectives. They didn't have a lot of experience in homicide at that point, to include the supervisor, who, from my understanding, never investigated homicide before being installed as the supervisor for the
I mean, what about that? So this guy is saying that the homicide supervisor had never handled a homicide before. The supervisor, come on. If this is true, of course, don't forget this is somebody, an anonymous source. We don't know, is it true what they're saying? But Nanos should come out and defend himself. But nobody comes ever to defend Nanos, do they? Never. So imagine somebody being put as a supervisor, a homicide supervisor who has never covered a homicide before. That'd be like, you put someone head of surgery or something in a hospital, but they've never actually operated on anybody. Or head of the teaching department, but they've never taught anybody. Just ridiculous if it's true, isn't it? And of course, what he goes on to say is the reason being for that is because Nanos likes people, he got rid of all the people that anybody who challenges him on any decision, he gets rid of him. And what he does is he just has people in there, that support him, whether they're any good or not, or got any experience or not. And we have heard this before, that the homicide department that was dealing with the Nancy Guthrie case were all inexperienced, because a lot of the experienced homicide detectives had been moved aside because they didn't agree with Nanos. So we've heard that before. So the thing is, I do think these things must be true about Nanos, because there's a lot of people saying the same thing, you know. And as I've said before, if it's not true, there's normally, you know, if somebody criticizes, I don't know, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, someone will criticize him. Somebody else will come out and say, oh, no, that's not true. He's a great guy, or he's this or that. There's always somebody who'll support that person. I mean, even Donald Trump, some people support him. But with Nanos, nobody's come out in his support. So I think that is telling. Anyway, I'm just going to put this video back to the beginning of when this guy started talking, because I'm just going to go and get a drink. Won't be a sec, and then you can watch it from the beginning.
What would you say are the biggest mistakes when it comes to the Nancy Guthrie investigation, from what you know?
Speaking with some people that actually know the intimate knowledge of this investigation have told me that there was an immediate rush to judgment on what was happening at that scene, and it was that Nancy had somehow wandered off. And so they rushed to that judgment, stayed with that judgment, and then ran the investigation as if this was a search and rescue issue, opposed to a possible criminal issue.
From what you know, were the initial people who responded inexperienced?
From what I understand, the people that were there on the scene were not 10-year homicide detectives. They didn't have a lot of experience in homicide at that point, to include the supervisor, who, from my understanding, never investigated homicide before being installed as the supervisor for the homicide unit.
So the supervisor who first responded to Nancy Guthrie's house had never investigated a homicide?
Correct.
How is that possible?
Well, so you have decisions made by people that will install friends and people that can do stuff for them, opposed to people that are there on merit and can do the job correctly.
Do you think not enough evidence was collected?
The fact that detectives had to return to that location not once but several times leads me to believe that they should have handled it differently. They should have kept the scene secure.
Do you get the sense right now that there's anyone that they're seriously looking at?
The people I've talked to that are still in the know on this investigation tell me that there's no direct suspect right now, no name on the table.
Is that shocking?
Not with how the investigation's gone so far. I mean, you have individuals.
Oh, that is shocking, don't you think? So after 2 months, they still, as far as this guy knows anyway, and he's supposed to be close to the investigation, no suspect. So that Porch guy, he's either the luckiest guy in the world or the most cunning guy in the world, or, you know, gang, if it's a gang, if there's more than one person. You know, they're either really lucky or really, really clever. Because remember in the beginning, everyone was saying, oh, we think this is an amateur, the way they're carrying the gun and the this, that, and the other. Well, they're not much of an amateur if we're still 60 days on and the FBI no further on. They're not that much of an amateur, are they?
That are either lucky as hell or more cunning than a lot of people have seen in the past. If you take the first, extremely lucky, maybe his luck will run out, but so far it hasn't. But if you take the second one that was extremely cunning, there's a chance that he may have covered his tracks so well that we may not find out what happened right now.
Obviously, we're hiding your identity right now because you could get in a lot of trouble for speaking out this way. What would you want to say to the sheriff if you could?
I would say that he ruined a great department. It's savable if he steps aside, and I would ask him to step aside.
How would you describe morale at the sheriff's office right now?
I would say right now it's extremely low. This is the lowest I've seen it. There's a lot of embarrassment, especially with the news conversations that had with Nanos, his interaction with the media.
When the press conferences started happening.
Yeah, low morale because they're an embarrassment. Because we do have to remember, you know, our criticism is with Sheriff Nanos, not with the department in general. You know, I'm sure they are. Listen, all those sheriff's deputies, all the people that are involved in the investigation, they want to know what's happened to Nancy, because just like Nancy could be our mum, our grandma, or us, you know, same for them. They've all got mums and grandmas and, you know, what have you. So they all want Nancy to be found. But, you know, at the end of the day, they have to do what Sheriff Nanos tells them to, because he's the sheriff. So the criticism is with him. And from what we can gather, there was already a lot of, you know, this Nancy Guthrie case has brought it to a head what's happening there at Pima County. But there was already a lot of dissatisfaction, wasn't there? That's what we can gather. So Sheriff Nanos needs to step aside. Let somebody else come in with fresh eyes, a better way of doing things. You know, it needs somebody. All these, should be a meritocracy, not a nepotocracy. You know, when you're dealing with things as important as people's lives, you know, this is not like, you know, you Tesco's or whatever. This is people's lives that are being dealt with. You know, it shouldn't be down to who the sheriff likes or doesn't like, you know, who's put in charge of investigations. It should be the person who's the best person for the job, whether he likes them or he doesn't like them. It doesn't matter. It's their experience that counts. You know, that's what counts, their experience, what they can offer to find in this person, not whether Sheriff Nanos is spitting his dummy out because, you know, they didn't agree with one thing he said. So yeah, he needs to step down. He does. I wish he would.
In the interviews with Nanos, what were you thinking?
Shut your mouth. Stop talking. That's pretty much what we were all saying. Is why is he out there saying that?
The no confidence vote, I mean, that every single deputy in the union voted that they don't have confidence in the sheriff, I think to a lot of outsiders was like, wow, I mean, every single deputy.
Yeah, this isn't the first no confidence vote that we've done. So it should have been no surprise to him, especially with what has been going on. So not only our local community, Arizona in general, but just the nation now sees that we have no faith in Chris Nanos.
Is it awkward for people working there?
I think everyone is walking on eggshells.
What would people in the department want to say to Savannah?
Just to explain to Savannah that just because we have an incompetent lead doesn't mean that we don't care, that we don't want Nancy to be brought home safely, and that we're not with her in this. We are completely with her and her family on this.
Incredible. Brian Enton joins us live from Tucson with more on his exclusive report. Brian.
Yeah, Katie, I mean, you think about how unusual it is for someone close to an investigation to speak out this way, but it shows really how desperate they are for people to know what's been going on behind the scenes, the embarrassment that people feel on the inside, and just wanting to get the word out that they do support Savannah and they're working as hard as they can, but that these mistakes early on in the investigation really caused problems. We tried to reach out to Sheriff Nanos to get a comment on all of this, Katie. We have not gotten a response. He's not granted us an interview since the beginning. We had an interview very early on in the investigation, but in the past, he has stood by his decisions and stood by the people who he has chosen to investigate Nancy Guthrie's disappearance.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app.
So, you know, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? You know, it's incompetence running wild, says Sean. Yeah, believe it. I agree. And, you know, I think the thing is, Sheriff Nanos, in a way, has been unlucky, really, because the thing is, when you get a big case like this in your backyard, Sheriff Nanos could, you know, suddenly he's in the spotlight, isn't he? And Brian Enton quite often says about the national spotlight, but we know it's the international spotlight. You know, God, talk about putting you off Arizona, making Arizona or Tucson look ridiculous, or Pima County. You know, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, God, I wouldn't want to live there. I'm glad I don't live there. It looks terrible, you know. But it could have been different. You know, Sheriff Nanos could have used it as the opportunity to come out smelling of roses and try. Listen, he may still not have been able to catch the perpetrator by now, but he could have dealt with it all better. So he's coming out, instead of coming out smelling of roses, he's coming out smelling of something else that begins with S and ends in T. You know, it's like he's just, you know, he's laughing stock. And of course, the other deputies, they're embarrassed, according to that guy. And of course they were, but you would be embarrassed, wouldn't you? Because they're working really hard. I'm sure, and the team that are dealing with it are probably working 24/7 to try and solve this case, as I say. And there's Sheriff Nanos. He doesn't give an SHIT. He's going to the gym, going to the basketball. He's just not aware of what is going on, you know. So anyway, that's where we are with Nancy. Not further on. The only, as I said, the only news really that seems to come out about Nancy is the arguments between the YouTubers and the sort of incompetence of Sheriff Nanos. There is no developments, but every day is a new day. Today could be the day. I say it every time that I come on, and if anything develops about Nancy, I will be on to tell you about it, and we will follow it till the end. Now the end might be 5 years down the line. Surely it's not going to be 5 years down the line, please God. You know, for poor I think Nancy is probably beyond helping this realm now. You know, I do think Nancy has probably departed this earth, but her family are still here and they deserve, you know, a conclusion. They deserve answers. And if they're sad answers, I hope they get it, you know, because so many people go missing and so many people never get their answers, do they? So, you know, but the sort of, what's the word? The reality of life just means that, yeah, and the fact there are loads of missing people in Tucson, in Pima County, you know, there's this, we're 2 months on. When are they going to start scaling this operation back? You know, and sad, isn't it? Sad. Nobody should go missing and not be found. Nobody should be, you know, their body not found and then given. Everyone deserves a bail, even if they're gone from this world. Deserve, you know, it's part of the right to life, isn't it? You're born, you live, and then you die. Those are three things. You know, you everybody, they're common to everybody. Everybody is born, everybody lives, and then every money you've got or haven't got, or what colour you are, or where you live, you know, what ethnicity you are, what your background is, what your religion is. Those are three commonalities for all human beings, and not only human beings, but just any life, you know, animals as well, born, live, die. But human beings, we have our, you know, you're born, and then you get sort of like all the thing about being born, and then you live your life and you go through, and then when you die, you get the last rite of passage is your final farewell, isn't it? Your celebration of life, the way your family say goodbye to you or your friends, etc. Everybody deserves that. And Nancy's not getting that. And not only Nancy, so many people don't get that. So that's what, you know, hopefully will happen. Okay, so that then leads me on to the last subject that I want to talk about, which is all about burials. And for those of you who are in different countries in the UK, you maybe don't know about this case, this terrible, terrible case of a funeral director who took money off people for funerals. So going back this now, funerals are expensive. Your family member dies, and unless they've got a funeral plan, or a lot of people have to, if somebody dies unexpectedly, especially, you have to find money from somewhere for a funeral, which probably is going to cost you about £5,000. For an average funeral, for just like your basic bog standard funeral, not talking about, horse and carriage and golden coffin. I'm talking about a basic funeral. It's probably between what, £5,000? I don't know. And these people, these poor people who not only being bereaved, just let me make sure I look at my comments. So just what you're asking there, Sean, the reward for info, Nancy Guthrie, of course, it's $1 million from the family, $1 million reward from Savannah and Annie and Cameron, the children of Nancy. And then there's, I think it's 200,000, was it, from the police or something, or $100,000 from the police. But anyway, the total reward is 1,250,000, I think, because I think there was a private donation as well. So it's a massive reward, isn't it? But nobody's come forward. So the guy that was on Brian Entin, the FBI guy that we didn't watch there, but he's, if you want to look at that, it's very interesting. I think it was him, or it might have been another podcast, because I've seen so many. They're saying that normally it's when things start going wrong, if this is a gang of people, if one of them gets arrested or some heat goes on them, that's normally when things start falling apart, and bad guys start telling on each other. And he said it's really common. But it's normally they'll normally stick together and won't tell on each other until there's a chink in the armor, like someone starts getting leaned on or even arrested and questioned, and then everything starts falling apart. So we've got hope for that, I suppose. I don't think we're going to find out any other way. So going back to this funeral director, so yeah, your loved one dies and you ring up the funeral director. Maybe they've got a plan with them, or maybe they haven't, and you're just ringing up a local one or whatever. And you have to pay a lot of money to get your loved one taken care of, or that's what you think. That's the trust you put in a funeral director. It's like a doctor or anyone or someone you trust your children with at a nursery. These people are in a position of great responsibility, because that is someone's loved one. And okay, they may be deceased, but they're slap her loved one, and they want their body treated with reverence, respect, until they find their final resting place, don't they? So what you don't expect from a funeral director like this twonk, let's have a look at him. So this guy, he's a funeral director. He took money off people to bury their loved ones or cremate them. And instead of doing that, he piled them all up in his funeral parlour. Why? I have no idea. To save money? What was it? So he just the thought of them all lying there in his funeral parlour. He was going to work every day, was he? I mean, it's disgusting. Imagine you finding out that your mum or your dad or your whoever had just been piled up with a load of other bodies when you were expecting them to have been cremated or whatever. That's what this guy did. Anyway, let's have a look. If I read one, here we go. I read it out first. So, yeah, I'm just going to read out to you what the Crown Prosecution Service says. So, this took place in Hull in the UK. Now, for any of you who don't know where Hull is, it's in East Yorkshire. East Yorkshire. Let's get a map up, actually, is probably a good idea. Just in case you don't know the UK. And I've got to admit, I didn't realise it was in Yorkshire, but anyway. I thought it was in the north. Yorkshire's not really in the north, is it? Anyway, my geography is not brilliant, but let's have a look. I'll show you where I need to take his photo off a sec. So, here's the UK, or Hull in the UK. Get an idea of where it is. Why is it going down like that? Why is it doing that? Oh, so it is here. I hope you can see that okay. Oh, so it is sort of, would you call it? It is the north. It is the north. Yorkshire is in the north. So you've got Manchester here. It's not that far from Manchester. I mean, the thing about the UK is nothing's that far from each other, is it? You've got Sheffield, Leeds, and here's Hull, near Beverley. That's where this took place. Yeah. And you know what? I think what's the saddest thing about this case is it's not the only time it's ever happened. It's happened before in the UK. I've seen cases in Australia, in America, similar cases. Funeral directors, maybe they need more bloody, more checks and balances or whatever. Maybe they should be inspected more often or something. Because this is not the first time I've seen a case like this. And as I say, a funeral director is a person in a great position of trust, aren't they? You know, you trust, you hand over your relative. They come and get your relative or your loved one or your friend. You come and get them and you trust that they will take them to the chapel of rest, take them and, you know, when you have the, I don't know, funeral, memorial service, whatever, that they will then dispose of the body in the right way. You don't think they're just going to pile them up in a room at the back of the funeral parlour on top of a load of other bodies, do you? You know, you don't think that. I mean, it's terrible. But this is what he did. It's what this guy did. So I'm going to read for you what the Crown Prosecution Service, what they released on the 2nd of April. So yesterday, the Crown Prosecution Service UK released this statement. A man has pleaded guilty to dozens of counts of preventing a lawful and decent burial after remains were found at a funeral director's in Hull in 2024. Robert Bush, 47, that's the guy that you can see in the photo, formerly of Kirk Eller in East Yorkshire, has pleaded guilty today, 2nd of April 26, to a total of 67 charges. 67, including the prevention of a lawful and decent burial, fraud, fraudulent trading, and theft. The Crown Prosecution Service prosecuted Bush following an investigation by Humberside Police. And Laura Tams, Deputy Chief Crown Prosecutor for the Crown Prosecution Service, said that Robert Bush has pleaded guilty to a number of charges, in connection with the operation of the Legacy Independent Funeral Directors premises in Hull. These charges represent some of the most serious breaches of trust possible in the funeral industry. They include preventing the lawful and decent burial of bodies, defrauding families who paid for services never provided, returning wrong ashes to grieving relatives, fraudulent trading of funeral plans, and the theft of charitable donations made in memory of the deceased. Oh my God. So even the theft of charitable donations on top of everything else. The impact on the families and wider community has been profound. At their most vulnerable time, when seeking dignity and closure for their loved ones, these families were subjected to appalling violations of trust. I want to take this opportunity to share my deepest condolences to all those who've been affected, learning that their relatives' remains had not received proper care and some received the wrong ashes has caused immeasurable additional grief and trauma. Now, I just want to say here, I am a person who believes that once you're dead and once you've had your funeral and your celebration of life, etc., I do think your spirit is in the universe, and so I don't think it's affected the actual victims, if you like, in the sense of calling the victims the people that have deceased. I do believe that dead bodies are empty vessels, but to a lot of people, you know, that's just my opinion. So I don't feel I have to go and visit, you know, where my parents were buried or where they were cremated. You know, it doesn't, because I feel like they're all around me. But that is my opinion. A lot of people take a lot of comfort. I know lots of people who like to go to graves. They don't say like in the sense of they enjoy it. They'd rather go round to their loved one's house and have a cup of tea, but what I say is they take comfort to going to the graveside, talking to their loved ones who've deceased, or if they've been cremated, having their ashes at home, or a lot of people have the ashes made into jewelry, don't they, and things like that. Imagine that you've done that you've got your loved one's ashes and you've made a little necklace out of it, or a ring sometimes, and then you found out it wasn't even their ashes, what you're carrying around with you, whose ashes? Are they even ashes? And if they are another person's, whose are they? Just the trauma on top of the trauma of already losing your loved one, isn't it? So I've no words for this. This is foul. He hasn't murdered anybody, but it's worse than murder, isn't it? Doing this because it's so cold, calculating, so widespread. Anyway, so they said, while nothing can undo the harm caused to these families, today's guilty pleas represent an important step towards justice for all those who have suffered from these deplorable actions. Now, the only good thing that this twonk did was he pled guilty. But according to the police here, he pled guilty because there was so much overwhelming evidence against him. He couldn't not plead guilty, basically, because he couldn't plead not guilty because the evidence was so overwhelming against him. So it's not necessarily that he pled guilty because he had a crisis of conscience. He got found out, didn't he? He got found out, and that's why he pled guilty. So we can't think, oh yeah, he pled guilty, that's an extenuating circumstance. It's not. He didn't plead guilty because he felt sorry. He pled guilty because he knew he wasn't going to get away with it, basically. Bush told families he would care for their loved ones in accordance with the normal expected practices of a funeral director, and in many cases he claimed he arranged a cremation immediately or soon after the conclusion of the funeral. He took payments for this service. However, in March 2024, following a report of concern for care of the deceased, I wonder who shocked him. You know, I'd like to know who shocked him, and they deserve a medal. Police attended the Legacy Independent Funeral Director's premises on Hessel Road, Hull, and found and recovered bodies which had purportedly had funerals and been cremated. How could he just keep those bodies in there? Oh my God. I mean, wouldn't they decompose, or is it because they've been embalmed? I mean, it just doesn't bear thinking about, does it? In many of the instances in which families had requested a cremation, they received ashes from Bush, but the ashes received were not of their loved ones. He'd also been receiving money for funeral plans and keeping the money for himself. Additionally, he stole money he'd received from families who requested that the funds be sent to their chosen charities. 12 charities say they never received these donations. The prosecution reviewed an extensive amount of evidence, including material recovered from the scene, financial records, victim statements, and CCTV footage, to build a strong case which resulted in his guilty pleas. Senior Investigating Officer, Detective Superintendent Alan Curtis said, "The utter devastation and emotional harm Robert Bush has caused to hundreds of victims and families cannot be underestimated." Hundreds. Hundreds. Oh, God. What was he going to do with those bodies in the end? They trusted he would look after those who meant the most to them, and that he would treat their loved ones with dignity, respect, and in accordance with their wishes, and this did not happen. 31 families believed their loved ones had been cremated when in fact they remained on site. 31 bodies he had piled up. Within the Legacy premises on Hessel Road, most had been given ashes and had been advised that their loved one's cremation had taken place. Other families, who had chosen cremations through Legacy, were left waiting for ashes that have never been provided, or were deceived and given ashes that we now know were not their loved ones. The distress and devastation this has caused for these families is unimaginable. People paid Bush for their funeral plans, so in the future their families didn't have to worry about costs and arrangements for their own funerals. He betrayed this trust, leaving some victims with the uncertainty around their own funeral arrangements and without the means to pay for them. Oh my God. And don't forget, these people that he's cheated out of this money and you know, done such horrible things with their loved ones, they're not rich people. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you get a funeral plan, I don't know if any of you have a funeral plan. I personally don't have one. Should have one, but don't have one. Because they're expensive. You know, sometimes people are paying, I don't know, 30 euros a month for a funeral plan. They say you're paying that over 5 years. That's a lot of money. And just a complete aside here that I would say just as a word of advice, because here in Spain, funeral plans are really popular because there's a lot of, you know, in the expat community, there's a lot of elderly people living out here. And they all, you know, I know a lot of people that sold funeral plans, and, you know, people are all, once you get over 50, people are trying to sell you a funeral plan all the time. The best ones to do, just as advice, just in case you're thinking of it, you can get funeral plans where you just pay one amount. It's a bigger amount to fork out, if you like, But yeah, it's better than paying €30 a month, say. Just pay Avalon, just from people that I know that have had experiences. Avalon are good. I don't know if you can get them in your country, but they're a company that works here in Spain. And these are funeral companies. You can contract it online. And people that I know's loved ones have had policies with Avalon, for example. They say they've been very good. They've literally just phoned them up. They take care of everything. And because here in Spain, if if your family are in the UK or in a different country, but you've decided to come to retire to Spain, the first problem that your family are going to have if anything happens to you is the language barrier. So you need to have a funeral plan really, because if your family are outside the Spain, because they're not likely to be able to speak Spanish. So it's much better to have someone who will just deal with it all for you, and you don't have to, because it's bad enough having to deal with the fact that your loved one has died than trying to grapple with the language barrier at the same time. But anyway, I've had a lot of experience with this through interpreting and through people that I know who sadly have died and their families' experience. But my experience, if you like, from what people have told me, from experiences they've had, Avalon always comes out. I don't know if you have it in your country or whatever, but it always comes out as a good funeral plan. But you pay a lump sum. And the good thing about that is, because you might not die for 30 years, you could take out a funeral plan now. Let's say you're 60 or 50 or whatever, you could live another 30 years. So if you're paying so much a month, that's a lot of money, Whereas if you pay a lump sum now, which feels like a lot of money to find in one hit, but also you're fixing the price then as well. So it doesn't cost, say you died in 30 years and maybe funerals have doubled in price, you don't pay, any more money. You've paid for, you've booked you. So I would definitely, that's just a bit of waffle just to advise you. So the damages caused to families across our communities is quite possibly irreparable, with so many victims who have suffered and continue to do so. Losing a family member or friend you love and care deeply about can be one of the most traumatic experiences anyone can go through, and Robert Bush took advantage of this. He was trusted by people at a time they needed him most. He exploited them, taking their money without any consideration or thought given, and not delivering on his promise to provide the service and care he was paid to do. While he's admitted his guilt and ensured that families and victims will not have to go through the ordeal of a criminal trial, the harm and pain he has already inflicted can never be undone. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank all my colleagues who were involved in this case, as well as the major crime team for their unwavering dedication and hard work and building a strong case against Robert. He then goes on to commend the families. They've demonstrated extraordinary strength, resilience, courage. Our thoughts are with them today as it is with their loved ones. So we're waiting for sentencing now. He will be sent. We'll look out for that. He will be sentenced on the 27th of July this year. What sentence do you think he deserves? I mean, it's got to be a big one, surely, because I know he hasn't murdered anybody. But, it's not much worse than murder, really, is it, to pile up these people's body? I mean, how much worse can you get? How much worse can you get? Hi, Daniel. How much worse can you get than piling up 31 bodies? Were there others? What did he do with them? Did he have others? I mean, I'm presuming he doesn't have an incinerator there. He would take them to somewhere, would he, to have them cremated? What is it? Was there only 31 in total, or were there others? And he's disposed of the bodies, or where did he put them? Or just doesn't bear thinking about, does it? So we're waiting for a sentence. Yeah, how was he busted, Sean? Well, what it said earlier, wasn't it? Somebody phoned up. Somebody blew the whistle, but we don't know who it is. I don't know who it was. Maybe if I researched it a bit more, but at this moment in time, I don't know. But what I would like to look at before we finish, let me just put some windows back. I'd like to look at some of the relatives speaking. Let's see if we can find a couple of videos. Oh, let's have a look at him being arrested. So he was arrested on a flight. Let's have a look at this. This is. We'll have a look at just a couple of videos about it now to. Just terrible. So don't forget to let me know if you can hear it or not, because you know what it's like, can't always hear the first time for some reason. Let's make sure it's sharing. Okay, let's have a look at this.
Is hidden from responsibility, but now he's facing up to the lies he told to dozens of grieving families. These are some of their many loved ones, their remains entrusted with a man who today admitted preventing the lawful burial of 30 bodies, as well as dozens of charges of fraud and theft.
That was a human being. That was my son. That was somebody that I loved.
After her baby son Sonny was stillborn in 2022, Jasmine asked Bush to cremate his remains. She was given what she thought were his ashes. But when Bush's funeral home was...
Oh my God, a baby. Oh, come on. Oh no. I tell you what, this guy, what sentence is he going to get? He needs a big sentence. You know, it just seems, I know it's bad for all these people, but for a baby, for God's sake. Oh my God. Now I can feel, I just want to go absolutely mental. I'm getting upset. I'm getting upset and I want to swear, but I'm not going to. But I tell you, what a foul man. What a foul man.
Searched 2 years later, his body was still there.
Oh.
Sonny didn't get no dignity. He was found on the floor in a brown paper bag. To me, that's not dignity. What makes him think that that was a...
Oh my God. So this baby, can you hear the video? Found on the floor in a brown paper bag. 2 years the baby had been lying there. 2 years. Oh my God. Just gets worse and worse, doesn't it? Hi, David. I'm presuming you can hear this video okay? Let me know if you can't, because I'll take it off and put it back on again. You know, sometimes it doesn't work the first time.
Okay.
Oh.
For some, this memorial in Hull is a place to grieve in the absence of answers. After her fourth miscarriage in 2023, Katie was given ashes in this small box, Police later told her there was no record her child had ever been cremated. The ashes were not her baby's.
It's torturous, really, do you know, to sit and think about where they could be or what he did with them. It's horrible. I just couldn't believe that somebody could do such a thing.
All the while, Bush was leading a seemingly successful life.
Hi, it's Robert. Just stand up and come with us, that's all right, please.
Until he was arrested at Heathrow Airport in March 2024 as his flight returned from the US.
Oh, so he'd been to the US. So he's arrested on the flight. I just want to see that bit again. I want to see him being arrested. Oh my God. Do you know what? That must have felt so good for the police officers. I bet his heart dropped, this guy. Do you know, listen, that's 2 babies. Apart from the other, it's bad enough when they're elderly people, but, elderly people, they die, don't they? But you still wouldn't want them to be just left in a room, like for 30 bodies all piled on top of each other in a room. 2 babies. 1 baby in a brown paper bag for 2 years, just his body just lay there. The other baby, the ashes given to the mother, and then the police saying there's no record that he was ever cremated. So they weren't, oh my God. What, this man, he deserves a life sentence. I think he's got to get a big sentence, surely he has.
Until his arrest at Heathrow Airport in March 2024 as his flight returned from the US. That came 4 days after police raided his business, Legacy Independent Funeral Directors. In total, they'd recovered 35 bodies, alongside ashes linked to 163 families. Today, those affected by Bush's crimes called for stronger regulation of the funeral industry, for which no licence or qualification is needed to practice in England.
We must ensure none of our loved ones can ever again be held decomposing when indeed families have arranged cremations.
The government says it's reviewing recommendations.
I mean, it's unbelievable. It literally is unbelievable, except it really happened. You don't need any qualifications or any license to be a funeral director. Also, I just set up a funeral directors in my basement. It's probably more lucrative financially than teaching Spanish. Just pile up the bodies at the back. Oh my God. Oh my God. Now, I don't know what the laws are in Spain. People, I don't think you have private funeral directors in Spain. Not in the same way like that. I don't know. I don't know what the situation is in Spain. Normally they come and get your loved one. They take them to what's called the tanatorio, which is like where they cremate bodies. But I suppose if you didn't want your loved one cremated, they take them to a place called a velatorio, which is, I suppose, a bit of a chapel of rest. But I don't know if they're private. When I say it, I don't think they're privately owned. But in the UK, you can. I remember our local newsagent. He had a newsagent in the shop on the ground floor, and then above was a chapel of rest. He was also a funeral. I mean, when I think about it now, I never even thought about it then. That's where my dad ended up going, and he did look after my dad so well because he knew him. Because he was a local funeral director in a different age, I suppose, where you knew people. We went to see my dad in the chapel of rest, and he was very looked after. Well, I presume he was, and he was definitely cremated. Well, there was a cremation. I presume he was in the coffin. I mean, for God's sake. Now it makes you wonder about everything, don't you? Because now you'd be thinking, well, was my loved one even in their coffin, or were they cremated? But the thing is, there were records of the cremation that we went to the crematorium for the service. These are people where there's no record of their cremations. How could you? I just don't understand how he's got away with this. Didn't people go to the crematorium for a service?
recommendations for new laws some believe could have protected families whose trust in a man employed to ease their pain only served to amplify it.
Well, the big question here tonight is why did Robert Bush do what he did? This was a seemingly normal man with a family and a business that had been running for since 2010. But clearly at some point, something dramatically changed. In court today, we were told that when he's sentenced in July, we'll hear statements from more than 240 victims. Before this hearing today, we were told that we could expect the answers to some of those questions to be drawn out through a long trial. But this change of plea means that's no longer going to happen. But such is the weight of the evidence in this case that the sentencing alone should last several days.
Jonathan in Hull, thank you.
Now, what I'm finding as I go along with true crime now, you know, at first you think, oh, it's good they've pled guilty and the family don't have to go for a trial. But do you know what? The problem with that is you don't get to know what's really happened, do you? They don't have to explain what's happened. The police don't, you know, so I think it first struck me with the Stefan Stearns case and Madeleine Soto, you know, and he decided to plead no contest. So he's never pled guilty, but there's a lack of accountability there, isn't there? And then also then we still don't know what happened to Madeleine Soto. You know, he's pled no contest, but what did happen to her? Somebody killed her. And the only good thing about there not being a trial is, of course, then we, you know, Madeleine Soto's, all those images and videos that he had on his phone aren't going to be shown to people, and that saves Maddie's privacy. Do you know what I mean? 'Cause he had all those horrible videos of him abusing her when she was drugged or asleep. But the trouble is, when these defendants plead not guilty, it's good in one way, but it's bad in another because you never get to know the truth of what went on. Same with Brian Kohberger and the Idaho 4, etc. And the same with this. So it'll come to the sentencing, and these victims' families will have a chance to have their say, but he's not going to be asked why he did it. What possessed him? So he's had this funeral home since 2010. What was he? Has he done it before? Has he been? Where would he dispose of? Maybe in the end, when they get too many, he disposes of them somewhere. But where could you dispose of them? I don't know. So you know, there's more questions than answers, isn't there?
You've got so many people's loved ones just laying there waiting. How would he feel if that was one of his family members?
How could anybody even think about being disrespectful in such a hideous way?
I just want to know what he did, where my baby's remains went, if they ever did make it back to his funeral home, or I just want to know the truth.
Imagine losing your baby, bad enough, and now she doesn't even know what happened to that baby. What did you do? Put him in the rubbish? Or, you know, what? Horrible man.
Katie Woolston had her fourth miscarriage in 2023. She asked Robert Bush to cremate her baby. But the ashes she was given in this small box, police say, were not her baby's. They said the timeline didn't fit and they couldn't find any record of a cremation happening.
All I can sort of think that he has done with the baby's remains is just put them in a bin. It's the only way I can think where what he could have done with the baby's remains, because there's no evidence that they ever went to a crematorium and was cremated. There's nothing to tell me where my baby's remains ended up, and it's torturous, really, you know, to sit and think about where they could be or what he did with them. It's horrible.
That she could be, and my mother in my opinion, now we've lost her, was the glue of our family.
Oh.
For nearly...
So look at those extremes there. So you've got babies and elderly people. So at the end of the day, your mum, your grandma or dad or granddad, you know, it's the natural progression of things that they will die. But then to find out, you know, you entrust the funeral director to make sure they're treated with respect. You trust them with that.
3 years, Tracy Hudson had this ring, believing it was made from her mum's ashes, only to be told in 2024 the remains she was given were in fact those of a stranger.
Police informed me that they had found my mother's certificate and ashes and everything to do with my mother 2.5 years after we lost my mother. So, and we'd had ashes prior to that, so it's not her.
What went through your mind when you were told that you hadn't got your mother's ashes?
I was distraught. I was very angry. You get this feeling inside where you're trying to deal with your grief and everything surrounding my mother passing away, because I cared for her to the very end. So when you think you've done your best to help her when she was poorly, and then this has happened and she couldn't even be looked after properly in death. She couldn't be looked after. We thought we did everything right for her, what she wanted for her funeral, everything. And then to have this happen, it shattered everything, and we felt guilty. We felt we'd let my mother down. And that guilt just didn't go away.
Oh.
They brought him to see us.
There's the other baby. Yeah, don't. So how did this happen? So right, all I'm thinking is like when my parents died. So they were in a chapel of rest at the funeral directors. Then for the actual cremation, we went to the crematorium, and there was a service. And then, as you say there, Sean, the coffin goes on the conveyor belt and the curtains close down behind it. What happened? So what did he do then? Did they have the service and then he's taken the coffin back to the funeral director? I mean, I don't understand how this has happened. If you've gone to the crematorium for an actual service, surely the crematorium deals with that. Oh, it's a bamboozling. But anyway, it happened because all the bodies are piled up. I mean, I understand with the babies, like the lady that had a miscarriage, she's obviously, sadly, taken that body to him and asked him to have it cremated, but there's probably not been a service. And then he's taken it off to, told her that he's taken the baby off to be cremated, brought the ashes back. Oh, I don't understand how he's done it. And like somebody said there in the chat, I think maybe it was easier during COVID. Maybe that's where it may, you know, maybe he hasn't always done this. Maybe he did it once with the baby, for example. And he thought, oh, I could do this with the adults as well. Maybe it gave him the idea. Maybe, as you say, David, he's got a habit to feed. Maybe he's like, you know, on drugs or gambling, or maybe he's got, you know, a mistress or several, or, you know, you just don't know, do you, what is going on, what the reasons were that he was taking, because it's a lot of money, really. It's thousands and thousands of pounds, isn't it? You know, I don't know how much I mean, I've never even had to think about, you give your loved one over to the funeral director and you don't really think about the nuts and bolts of it, do you? Just terrible, isn't it? It's just awful. Thank God he's been caught. But do you know what? It makes you wonder how many others are doing this. Because it's not the first. As I say, he's not the first and he won't be the last. People have been more careful now, I would imagine, because this has come out, and it's not only in the UK. I've seen cases all over the world. So yeah.
And he just looked like a baby, just a lot smaller, but he looked like a baby.
Oh.
And I'm glad that I saw him and that I had sort of moments with him, but it wasn't long enough.
Oh.
In 2022, Jasmine Beverley's baby, Sunny, was stillborn. She was given ashes, but in 2024, police told her son's body had been found still at the Legacy Funeral Home on Hessel Road.
It was really difficult to hear that because it had been 2 years since we lost Sunny.
So that first poor lady with the baby, she doesn't know what happened to her baby. He could have been put in a bin or something. This lady, at least she knows where he, I hope, she's been able to lay him to rest properly now. He was in a carrier bag in the funeral home for 2 years. Now, this about returning the ashes. So sometimes he seemed to return ashes to people and they weren't those people. Sometimes some of the ashes, there weren't even ashes. Now, I'm I'm an animal lover, as you know, and I know a lot of you out there, you're all animal lovers as well. And I know that a lot of people take comfort from having their pets cremated and getting the ashes back and keeping them in the house. I know several of my family that have done that. I personally would never do that because I don't believe for a minute that you're getting your animals' ashes back. Are we really supposed to believe it? If you've got a little dog, they're going to put it in an incinerator on its own, and the ashes you're going to get back are just going to be your dog's. I don't believe that. But you know what? Maybe I'm just being cynical. I've never believed that. But as far as animals are concerned, so for me, like I've got my cat in the plant pot outside. I know that's my cat because we buried her there. My receptionist that I had at the time, she helped me bury her in a plant pot. So I know it is the cat in there. But if I'd taken my animals to the vet, and it's not that I've got any, the vets, they're lovely. Do you know what I mean? It's not that I think they would be doing anything deliberately dishonest. But I just can't see how they could make sure that it was your dog's ashes that you would get back. I mean, they do charge quite a lot of money for it, so presumably it means that the incinerator is just used for your dog or cat or no other pets. But anyway, that's not something I've ever wanted to do. I know a lot of people do it, and I understand why they do it. And you know what? If people get comfort for it, that's brilliant. But it never even occurred to me with people that might happen. God.
And the thought of him being in there was really difficult. But the police wouldn't tell us where he was found, so we didn't know if he was found with the other people or if he was somewhere else, because we felt like he wasn't found when everybody else was found. It was hard to sort of...
Listen, if the police won't tell you where he was found, you've got to think that's too upsetting. Whatever the circumstances about how this baby was found, if the police are refusing to tell this lady, the mother, how or where he was found, then that's not going to be good, is it? Bless her. But they, honestly, my heart goes out to this woman, all the others, but I think especially when they're babies, that, oh God, just, what a horrible man. Horrible.
Think, why would he do this? Sonny didn't get no dignity. He was found on the floor in a brown paper bag. To me, that's not dignity. That was a human being. That was my son. That was somebody that I loved.
Families have finally been able to give their loved ones the dignity they deserved. A new memorial garden now bears their names. Loss, grief, and betrayal.
There was an awful lot of anger, an awful lot of sadness, and we thought that coming together as a group might help people just get a little bit of strength.
In the days and weeks that followed such heartbreaking events, the city of Hull needed help in healing. Candlelit vigils in the city's Pickering Park, the bandstand becoming a focal point for far-reaching grief.
We brought people together who hadn't met before this, and they've now become like a united Hull 35 family, is what we're really called.
Prayers and thoughts of reflection were also led at nearby St Nicholas Church by the Reverend Linda.
I think they got a fact that there was a place where they could come to in love, in friendship, where no one was judged, where they could be upset if they wished to be, and where they could show each other that they were there as a family.
Among the dozens of people who lay flowers outside the branch of Legacy on Hessel Road was Karen Dry. Wanting to give something back to her community, she explains how the idea of monthly vigils and a social media support group seemed only right.
We are a lovely community, and we've found strength in that togetherness. We've found strength. You know, when this fest started, we went from anger to sadness, and for us all to be able to be comfortable talking and chatting like that about our situation, people want face-to-face support as well.
Of calls, offering advice, assistance, and reassuring those at the centre of this crime that they are not to blame.
What we have been able to do is work through that with people, and there is an emotional aspect to that as much as there is a financial aspect. And there isn't any shame in feeling some kind of guilt or some kind of shame around that.
While no good can come from such a tragedy.
Right, okay. So let's count this up. So you're looking at 35 bodies they're talking about. So each one of those people, babies, elderly people, all different ages, have family. Let's suppose, even if you think of the minimum, maybe that they've got, what would be the minimum in your family? Maybe 3 to 5 people, like maybe parents, brothers, sisters, aunties, uncles, sons, daughters, cousins. I mean, it's going to be more than 5. But even if you think take 5 family members that are going to be affected, so that's 35 times 5. Now, you know I'm crap at maths, so I haven't got a clue how many that is. But I know it's over 100. It's over 150, won't it? So what's the difference between this man and Ted Bundy, you know, with his victims and all the misery that he caused? Honestly, I know this guy, he hasn't actually murdered these people, but I don't see much difference, to be honest, you know, to treat people in such callous disregard when you are not only being trusted with them, but being paid to dispose of them in a respectful manner. And you wouldn't need to be paid, would you? You know, everybody knows that you treat people's loved ones in a respectable manner. You don't throw them in a bin or leave them in a room piling up. But if you're a funeral director since 2010, wasn't it, they said? You know, he's in a position of great responsibility. I hope this changes the law. The law needs changing. They should be licensed. They should need qualifications of some kind, and they should be visited on a regular basis. They should, bloody hell, you can have a restaurant and you have to submit to, you know, ad hoc visits for, to make sure you're doing everything right. In a restaurant, all you're doing is serving food, for God's sake. You're not dealing with dead bodies. But you've got to have on the spot. Good, if you're in a school in the UK, you have to be. People can turn up at any time and go through your school and make sure everything's being done properly. So what they're saying is, funeral directors, do what the hell you like. Nobody's going to come. Nobody's going to give you an on-the-spot check. No one's going to do a yearly routine check of your. Is that what they're saying? Oh my God. So, I could go to the UK tomorrow, set up as a funeral director. Nobody would know that, I mean, it's so ridiculous when you say it out loud, isn't it? Imagine me turning up in the UK and like, oh, Vicki Marie Chat's funeral services. Oh yeah, I'll look after your baby. Don't worry about that. I'll sort it out. I'll get them cremated. Oh yeah, when was he arrested? He was arrested on a flight going off somewhere on holiday, wasn't he? Yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, I'm off to Barbados tomorrow on holiday. I can't do that. Can't do that funeral. I mean, the more you think about it, the more ludicrous it is that funeral directors are not subject to checks and balances because I know people are dead already. That's the only thing, is it's not like a doctor, I suppose, and so a doctor's there to save your life, or these poor people, they're already deceased. But does that mean it doesn't matter anymore because they're deceased? Doesn't matter if you check on them or not, or check on the funeral director. They don't have to have any qualifications, they don't have to have any licenses because they're already dead, these people anyway. My God, if anything comes out of this case good, I just hope that it will change the law for the future. How many other funeral directors are out there thinking, oh shit, what am I going to do with them bodies that I've got in the back?
There are those who hope new friendships have been formed, a city stronger together.
They'll do the usual that the whole community will do. They will come together, they'll support each other, they'll rise above whatever's happened to them. They'll continue to be the friendly, whole, welcoming community that they are, and they will continue to support and love each other. I'm sure of that.
God.
It's unbelievable, really, that he's done it. And why has he done it?
Conned out of her hard-earned cash, at 85 years old, Yvonne Colby has seen it all, so understandably feels betrayed by Robert Bush.
He came over as such a lovely person, such a caring person.
What do you think of him?
I dare say. I only got these.
The prepaid funeral of Yvonne's husband, George, did go ahead as planned in 2023. But after carrying out checks with a third-party provider that she understood was looking after her money, Yvonne found there was no record of hers. She's down some £2,500.
We were old-fashioned. We didn't believe in cards and such like. I had to inform homicide police. And then they came down and interviewed me.
There's no ads. It's really, really frustrating that he can steal from people and he doesn't really care because he's done it more than once.
In Cottingham, Jeff Richards is another of the 200-plus victims of fake funeral plans.
I had paperwork off him that was allocated to a company. And so basically I phoned them up with the plan number and my name and everything. And they said, well, sorry, but we don't have any details or any information for you at all.
Paying over £4,000 by cheque gave him little financial protection. But Jeff worked with victim support, and only a few weeks ago, he heard back from his bank.
Even though they didn't have the right to give it back to me, as a gesture, they would refund me money.
A change in the law 4 years ago means the Financial Conduct Authority now regulates its funeral plans, offering more consumer protection. They have a firm checker on their website and encourage customers to do their research. So while our savings might be safe, the funeral industry still goes unchecked. As it stands, anyone can set up as a funeral director. They can do so from their home or from their office without any experience or any qualifications at all.
Oh my God.
Yeah, from the family's perspective, I don't think we can ever really get an angle on what.
Now, it's good that it's like probably all of us are shocked by that. Anyone can set up as a funeral director from their home. Anyone, no license, no qualifications, no experience necessary. Oh my God. And you're right, David, go with the co-op, or if you're going to go with anyone, go with, you know, nationally acknowledged companies. And it's a shame because, you know, sometimes people want to work with someone, you know, they trust local, you know, your local undertaker. As I say, that's where my dad went to. The undertaker's literally up the road. It was literally a 5-minute walk to that undertaker, and he had a chapel of rest above his newsagents, which now when I think about, think, God, he was a newsagent really, and then he set up a funeral home, and they're entrusted with bodies. Oh my God, it's mind-boggling. Anyway, a good thing then is at least it's raised awareness, you know, because there's probably a lot of us did not know that. You would just assume a funeral director knew what they were doing, and especially, I mean, he's been in business since 2010, so he has, you know, been in business for 15 years. He's not just, you know, suddenly set up like a couple of weeks ago or whatever. Oh, Dios mío. I just cannot, honestly, I cannot get my head around this. And like, yeah, like we were saying, Moonbeam, it's like serial killer without the killing. It's like, it's not much, it's only one step away from being a serial killer, isn't it? Oh, how could you not, you know, my question would be, how could you go to sleep at night, go and play with your family, your kids, take them, your family away on holiday, do this, do that, eat your dinner, go through your normal life, knowing you had 35 bodies piled up in your funeral home? How do people compartmentalize that much? That's like a psychopathic behavior, isn't it? It's only psychopaths can, you know, you've got to be a special sort of cold person if you can switch off from that. I can't switch off with what I'm watching on the bloody internet, never mind what's really happening in my life. You know, I have to try and put a psychic shield up every morning to disconnect from things like that happening miles away from me to people that I don't even know, like this case. This is going to haunt me now for a while. You know, so how do people who are actually have done these things, you know, they're like special people, aren't they? You know, they are proper psychopaths who don't give a shit about anybody else. How could you face those people? They're handing over their money to you, and you're knowing that you've got a pile of bodies in the back and their loved one's going to be one of them just piled on the top of it. How can you face a mother who's lost a baby, give them a box, say it's her baby's ashes, and then go and have your tea with your children? How can you do it? Got to hope he gets a big I don't know what sentence he's going to get. You know, but it's got to be, please God, let it be a big one.
What they've gone through.
Kevin Moxon's been a funeral director in Hull for 26 years. He understands the damage Bush's actions have caused to families and the profession.
Although it's had a massive impact in Hull, the wider ramifications of what happened here affect the whole funeral industry. We do need regulation, and I think this has thrown the spotlight on it.
Callender understands the government will update us on plans for regulation this summer. It comes in the wake of the David Fuller case in Kent, which saw the electrician abuse the bodies of women and girls at 2 hospital morgues for more than a day.
This was another one. This was a guy who was working in a morgue in a hospital or whatever, and he was abusing the bodies of women and girls. We had an incident at, in Manchester Hospital in was it the Royal Infirmary? I'm not sure, but anyway, there was an incident of a guy who worked in the morgue there abusing bodies. You know, they just look. You can't believe that it has to be monitored. Like, so now you're thinking all these morgues, they need CCTV cameras because you can't trust that some twonk isn't going to go in there and abuse a corpse. For God's sake. What's wrong with people? Honestly, God, there's so much evil in the world. Sometimes you just think the devil's on bloody overtime.
Decades. An independent inquiry then recommended a statutory regulatory scheme for funeral directors in England as a matter of urgency.
Yeah.
Of course, some of the stories you hear regarding the funeral sector and some of the situations that families have been in are extremely distressing and concerning. What we want to do is make sure that we strike the right balance, obviously, between providing those assurances for people who are engaging with the sector, but also for the businesses, 6,500 of them.
We would say we're ready and we're happy to discuss a form of regulation. Our concern is that it has to be proportionate, has to embrace the knowledge of the profession.
Tonight, both families and the industry are reiterating calls for regulations, new rules to ensure the security and the dignity of the deceased.
Do you know what? So, do you know what this is, in a whole roundabout way? This is reminding me of, Desi Freeman. That's something else I want to talk about again. There's some, he's the guy in Australia, sovereign citizen. This is why you can't do without the state, because you cannot depend on people to do the right thing. The state is important. Laws are important. The police is important. Courts are important. You can't do without them. So what you're going to do if you do without the state, and then you find out someone's been abusing corpses, you just say, well, it doesn't matter, it's only a corpse. This is why we have a state, and I can't believe that funeral directors aren't regulated already. But anyway, this is what we're finding out. So we need a state to put in laws, to put in CCTV cameras in these morgues. We shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to have laws against cruelty to animals. We shouldn't have to have laws against paedophilia. We shouldn't have to have laws against domestic violence. But we have to, because you can't depend on people to do the right thing. Because unfortunately, although I really do believe that probably 95% of people wouldn't dream of doing anything like that, there's always the other 5%. So that's why we need the state. We need laws. That's my opinion. Anyway, and that's what the state's there for. But we have to keep our eye on the state. We have to monitor them. We can't let them just do whatever they want. It's policing with consent. That's what, we have to put pressure on. That's why politics is important. People swan through their lives. Oh, I can't be bothered with politics. I'm not interested in politics. It doesn't affect me. Politics affects everything in your life. Who your leaders are, who your representatives are in local government, etc. Even if you don't want to get involved with national government or whatever. But, the rates you pay, the petrol you put in, the prices of petrol, the prices of food, it's all governed by politics our whole lives. So we need it, but we have to keep an eye on it and put pressure on it and make sure it's always working in the favour of, innocent people, and even bodies need things like, we can't think, you know, oh, the dead, it doesn't matter. You know what? Predators, twonks, evil people, the thing that they will always do is take advantage of the vulnerable. Children, women, elderly people. And what's vulnerable than a corpse who can't... Anyway, I think I'll get my vape out because I'm stressed now after all that. Oh, God. It's a crazy world. Anyway, please don't forget to like, subscribe. I'll let you know any more news about this case, certainly the sentencing when that comes up. Let me know what you think the sentence should be. I personally think he should get at least 20 years for this. I think I really do think it. I don't know how, you know, the laws work for desecration of corpses or undue attack. I don't know what the, you know, charges will be and how they'll work it out. But, you know, and it's all the misery that it's caused to everybody. So I'm hoping for 20 years, but I doubt if he'll get 20 years. You don't even get that for murder half the time, do you, in the UK? But maybe 15 years. But anyway, I hope it's a long sentence. I hope it's a long sentence. So I'll see you really soon in the next video. I just want to say, where is that? Gone that. Thank you again to Sean for the fee. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you that have sent me Ko-fis. Thank you to members, all the ones that have contributed towards my computer. Thank you so much. Yeah, don't forget to press like and subscribe though. Those are free ways you can help my channel, and press the notification button for notifications of the next crazy thing that happens. Look, so Tia, she always comes up, don't you, when she hears me saying goodbye. Do you? You know that I'm going to give you some attention now. Oh, if only, oh. Please, because animals and other vulnerable, you know, people are horrible to animals as well, aren't they, bless? Hello, baby. Anyway, we can just be good. Just be good to yourself, be good to each other. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Thank you so much. Bye.